Welcome back to the Pre-Vetted podcast, where we spotlight extraordinary people and remarkable talent reshaping our world. Today, we are joined by Dan Perera. He's founder and CEO of JX, where he helps businesses modernize and scale with AI-driven software, intelligent automation, and product design. Dan's work spans everything from custom apps and dashboards to AI, workflow automation, and even blockchain token-based systems, with a clear mission: make powerful technology simple, scalable, and profitable. In this conversation, we're going to talk about how he picks the right problems to solve, what AI transformation looks like in the real world, and the practical lessons he's learned building systems that drive real outcome. Dan, welcome to the show.
Federico, that's you've been very kind of a great intro about me. I should say it's a privilege to be here, Federico, and talk about what we do and how we shape our world. So I'm excited for this session, and yeah, let's start.
Awesome. I'm super excited to have you here today. We're honored to be able to share your story with our audience.
Thank you.
So let's start by talking about what does JX do in simple terms.
I think you kind of had a very good lead into it. That's exactly what we do. So we are an automation company, and it can be a very small problem, or it can be a very large problem for any enterprise. It can be a small, or let's say that you are a very small entity, a small business, right? And you can be an enterprise. It has about 1,000 odd employees in it. What we always see is problems are problems, and it's related to people end of the day. So no matter what type of a system or what type of a workflow or processes that you have, it all comes back to people. So the way we approach is basically understanding that. So our company is really focusing and honing on the problem statement, right? So what we do is we solving problems with technology. That's who we are. So it can be, like you said, it can be a simple automation, improving workflow with a simple solution, an integration, for example. Or it can be we have multiple softwares we're running vertically and I mean, copy, paste, so and so. Let's build a dashboard, bring everything together. Then you solve that problem, right? And then we get asked, how can we adopt AI into that? So does that mean that we are building a brand new or from the scratch and model that helps them? Or we actually bring in an existing AI model to run through that integration as well. And that's another that's another solution we can provide. And if not, well, you know what? We've had enough of all the systems we had. We wanted to build like a brand new enterprise resourcing program, like an ERP or a CRM or any other software. So we then customly build that automation software as well. So that can be within the Web 2, which is software as a service, a SaaS product. It can be a mobile application. It can be a dashboard or integration. And it can be a complete AI model, a complete AI automation. Or, like you mentioned, that we've been working on blockchain technologies as well, especially in the financial sector. So we kind of look into that as well. So end to end, we pretty much cover from a small business to large enterprise on their problem solving mechanisms. I just wanted to add this into that mix, which is we believed in human-centered design. I'm a big believer in it. So we put humans in the middle of a problem statement as the solution.
Amazing. When did you realize you wanted to build a company around software and automation?
I've been in the industry for the last 20 to 25 years now. And I've been in the corporate sector. I've been in a small business sector. I've been in a startup. I have worked in multiple countries like, of course, Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, then Dubai, like Middle East, UK, and also now North America. Before I started my company, I left my corporate world and I started consulting. My father was a businessman. I think it runs in the blood. I realized that like going from one company to another working and even when I left and start consulting, like nobody wants to solve the problem. Everybody wants to patch it. Everybody wants like to put another patch and another patch and another patch. Talk like you sit down in boardrooms and talk about like you're just wasting our time talking. Nothing gets done. Yeah. I've always wanted to be a problem solver. I always wanted to kind of point the finger at the right direction and ask the difficult questions. I've always been that. And every time I walk into a room with for a meeting, I don't say much at the start and I wait until the end. They're like, Dan, what do you think? I'm like, this is the problem. But you guys are going around in circles but not talking to the elephant in the room. Let's stop the elephant in the room. That's my job. Like you're just talking something else. But it's difficult. It's very hard. But that's where we need to address. And it gave me like, okay, I'm consulting now. And people started listening to me. Of course, there are nuance of psychology behind it because you're an external party. You know that like our kids never listens to us, right? But somebody else says something, they listen to them. So it's like
Yes.
exactly. So when somebody comes outside, people start to listen. So I decided like this is a very good way for me to make that impact into companies. So that also gave me that drive. Like I said, I'd probably been somebody who have that ambition to become entrepreneur was there. So there's a mix of a lot of things.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's I share that passion of solving problems as well and just not patching it. And there is some beauty on finding the optimal solution and optimizing, because there's always trade-offs on a solution, right? But over engineer a solution that, is just efficient and it works and it's solid and it's, and you see it running and, that for me that's amazing, right? And
I agree.
being able to answer all the questions, saying, why didn't it? It's already solved, but have you considered this use case? It works perfectly. For that use case.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely spot on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The you run the continuous integration server, everything looked green. It's such a beautiful thing to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We deliver a feature, a new feature. We launch it on time. We don't have any bugs, any big bugs, coming back, right? It means that we did a great job, that we built something that it's, yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, those things are, beauty per se, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
And I agree with you that people listen to outsiders more than within the organization. There is some, I think that there are a few reasons for that to happen. One is that once you're within an organization, you start building these relationships and this status quo. So then people are afraid to break the status quo, right? Or challenge it, right? When you come as an outsider, you have that freedom of just, going challenge everything because you're new, you're asking questions, right? And you're in that process challenging the status quo. And you can ask, why are you doing this? Oh, because that is how it's been done for whatever time, right? And you can challenge that without any political expense on your behalf, right? But if you're within an organization and you've been there for many years, then, you know, people kind of tend to go to don't rock the boat, right?
You're right. You're right. See, I've I've experienced that when you're an employee and then this, like I said, it's very psychological, right? When you're an employee and it goes back to the basics of your existence. Like, okay, this is my job and I don't want to rock the boat. I have to protect my job. And like, even if you want to say something, you probably think twice about saying that. There's so much nuances around it. Like, even you in a high rank, like a position, you still kind of play safe sometimes. But when somebody from outside comes, you don't have that responsibility. So you're basically saying the actual agency we hired to do that, and they told us to do this. So now you're pretty much putting the argument, evidence-based argument. So evidence has come through a third party. So it works. Like I said, what I've experienced is across my career, I mean, including when after I started my business, is that how can we communicate and how can we bring the conversation to support those members on the board or those executive or those decision makers that they will use our advice or our information and brings to the table as an evidence. So it becomes easier sometimes to make those decisions as well.
Right. Right. I wanted to ask you something about automation. So how can we build a system with AI automation that we can trust, given that AI is non-deterministic?
I'll give you a little example, right? So I'm gonna
Yes.
talk about something that we are working on. It's almost at the implementation level. It's one of the products that we are building right now. If you look at, like, this is year and a half ago, 2024 August. I think I was talking to. I'm a public speaker, so I do keynote speeches as well. So sitting in downtown LA, and I was asked to give us a speech about AI, because everyone was like, "Oh my God, ChatGPT, ChatGPT, ChatGPT." That's the only thing that I was just exposed to. However, I was kind of, before I spoke to the audience, I did a quick research on, but what's out there. This is a year and a half ago. There were about 125 AI models came out within that week. That's a year and a half ago. Now, if you go and look today, I'm sure there's about 1,000 odd models are coming out this week or last week, simply because AI A- AI models are not hard to build anymore, because there's so much. Like, we can talk about Claude, for example, right? So Claude is helping you to build more and more of it. So it's becoming, the bell curve is coming to now a plateauing, like, that just like late, I would say in 2008, 2007 and 8, we went through the SaaS boom. Like, there were big companies doing SaaS stuff. Everyone's talking about it. Okay, how can we build another SaaS, another product, and another product, and another product? So there was a boom around it. Then it became expensive. It became scarcity. Then it becomes normalized. So we are going through that phase of AI as well, right? There was a huge boom of it, still booming, but now from automation, like companies like us, we see that it's plateauing out. Now it's just balancing the industry around. Now, the trust, I want to get back to that question. Now, because there's so much out there, right? Then there's no regulation. It's a wild, wild west right now with AI. Anybody can do anything and put it out of the market, use it. There's no regulation in place yet. However, one of the reasons that what we are building right now, I'm going back to where I started, is that rather, we are confident, we managed to find we managed to find a method as well as a middleware. We run another algorithm in between. Now, let's say that somebody wants to build an AI automation software. Does that mean that does everything run only on AI? Absolutely not. It's not. So AI only doing certain parts to the application. You still need to have data entry, right? Because without that entry, AI can't do anything. Without data, AI can't do anything. So the human computer interaction has to happen. So when that happens, these automations that's pulling in the AI automations into it, right? Always the model, let's take OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. Let's say we are bringing the API out of the OpenAI, ChatGPT into it, right? Generally, they have the settings. You can actually tell them not to share our data with OpenAI. Now, does that mean that I'm going to use it? I don't want to say it. We don't. I'm just going to say, I don't know. We don't know, right? We built an algorithm. We built an algorithm as a middleware now. We are bringing the API from OpenAI to run the requests, run the prompts within this dashboard or the platform that you're in. And it's only runs within you. It doesn't send it back any data, because we are stopping that API to go back. It's not going to happen both ways. It's only happened one way. However, every time there's a prompt being hit into that particular application that we're building, right? Let's take it as a dashboard or whatever. It's going to call. There's going to be a call from the system that we are building to the OpenAI to ask you, okay, there's a prompt coming in asking this information. Now I want you to run that logic or the intelligence, but right, then it's using the data within the database of the customer only, and then give that answer or the output just onto their side. This is very complicated, but I'm just trying to simplify it as much as possible. So there is a way. There's a way to actually create AI automations without creating your own model by using existing models. But there are ways to stop. data being kind of moving back and forth. You can actually keep your data within your database, within your system, but run the model within your application without getting them access to that. There are ways to do that. So we are building that, and we have we have already built it. We tested it. It works. It's not only with OpenAI. We have about 16 other models that can be done with it.
Very interesting. Yes, the way that I understand it, and I apologize if I, kind of
No,
butcher the
I,
concept,
I
but
was, I was gonna ask, does it make sense?
yes, I think it makes sense. I'm trying to rephrase it to see if I understand it properly.
Yeah.
So each model has a data set, right? Lots and lots of data that put it together. That's kind of the model, how the model it's built, right? And now, as you mentioned, there are many variants of other open source models and data sets and combinations that you can make different models for different things, right? Whether it's uh, but just by changing the data set, and then you can also change how the model behaves and how it interprets the data, right? So, and I've seen so many variants of that, right? And then from with that, and yeah, probably this is a little bit beyond of what you described, but then you have the same model with different size of data sets. So it can use more or less resources when it's running, right? Dimensions, I don't remember the name, but yeah. And then you have what I was reading about context, where you can say to a model, well, this is the context that you have in order to build a response, right? And that context is what you were describing as the information, the local information of the company or the project or the task, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. So if I put it into a simple analogy, let's talk about a business agreement, for example, right? My business, your business, and somebody else's business, right? Now, I am the owner of my business. That's where I need my operations has to happen. And I'm going to tell you, right? And I'm going to write a contract with you that we are going to do business together, right? But I'm going to tell you this business called A, B, C, O, X, Y, Z business. I don't want you to tell them everything that we are doing. Just tell them that we are a business of selling caps or selling water or something. That's all they need to know. They don't need to know how we are going to make the bottle, what materials we are going to have, how the water has been recycled. Nah, that's only you and me. That doesn't need to know all that stuff. So the contract we are going to sign with you and the contract that you're going to sign with them, there's so much. So this much of information we both of us know. This is only they need to know. In a then the API basically, when you write, you are the middleware algorithm. We are the customer that we are running the software. And the XYZ business is OpenAI. They don't need to know everything that we do.
Right. Right. You can define the scope, and you can define how much outside of the scope of knowledge do you want the model to walk outside. Are those hard limits or soft limits? Right.
Absolutely. And also there's few other platforms like they are like N8N is something that is really, really good at like a model customizations. So when we do customize model, so we get existing model, if say we customize it, we can pull that algorithm as an individual model and then without any API, just implement into your software. That's fine. That way, the data is not going anywhere. You're running the model within you, train your model within your system. So it's everything sitting in your side.
Right. Right. And nothing leaves your infrastructure.
Absolutely not.
Have you seen better results with a local model
Yes.
than?
Simple. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. Now, I'm sure these words are now around in the industry and market as well. So there is a stage called hallucination state of any AI model, especially on the large language models. Now, hallucination is a simple word that it's the exact same meaning when we hallucinate as well as AI hallucinate. There's no difference. So hallucination is simply like, let's say you're going to ask me a very complex question, Federico. I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm thinking to answer. I'm answering this in a very simple way so everybody who listens to the understand that. So I'm thinking, what does thinking means? It's not hallucination. Sometimes you go into the stage of it's like, is this right? Is this no? I'm like all over the place, right? So I'm just trying to figure it out, right? You're in a stage of hallucination, stage of moving your mind all over the place, right? So this is exact what AI is doing from LLM perspective, trying to figure it out. It goes and then thinking. It says, "I'm thinking. I'm thinking." So thinking means it's actually in that stage of hallucination. It can narrow it down and bring it back quickly, or it won't be able to narrow it down, come back quickly because it's looking for vast data sets in the world. If we take OpenAI, and then give you the best solution. Now, in this state hallucination can got really vivid and then won't be able to provide you the right solution. Everybody probably have experienced that at the start of any of this OpenAI to any other. It couldn't give you exactly what you're looking, but it'll give you something, right? So that's what happens in any large language model until you train them to become more accurate and accurate because more data sets have access to it. Now, localization, right? That means your model only runs within you. That means now your data set is become very small compared to the world wide web of like where you have access to. Say that OpenAI have access to pretty much every single server in the world, for example, right? In localization, you only have access to one server. That means the more you run that local model, it's going to get much more smarter about your data set than any superior model like OpenAI. Why? Because you're not going to data sets in Europe or Asia or anywhere else. You're only sitting in your company. Now the model is becoming smarter and smarter because it's understanding the data sets very clearly.
Right. Right. I mean, it's I don't know if this analogy applies, but I hope it does. But is this idea of there's this concept of ignorance is bliss, where if you if you have so much knowledge, then you have so many ideas and thinking about so many things. But if you have if you sing The Sixth Day, movie with Schwarzenegger, where they make a clone and they transfer the knowledge, right? That person had at the snapshot of that, but doesn't know anything after that, right? So they can make a great clone of the character. Or there's this other movie where they manufacture soldiers, right? And they tweak the memory where they only know about, they become the perfect killing machine because all they know is, how to become the great soldier. Again, in the movies, it's sci-fi, right? But what I'm trying to go is this idea of if you have a very specific subset of knowledge, then your answers are going to be specific to that, right? Whereas AI is trying to be this generic know-it-all thing where it is more likely to give you the unexpected answer. Maybe it's not wrong, but in the context of a company, I just want the information of the company. I don't want you to think about life and movies and whatnot, right?
Yeah, pretty much you're right there. It just, I would say the word would be localization and narrowing down to single source of data sets. Your model becomes much more accurate. It'll become much far superior than any other models out there.
Right, right. I was able to run local models in my laptop, got in a plane and ask recipes for chicken, right? How can I cook a chicken, right? And it will give me very simple answers, right? Because it was one of these low memory models, right? So didn't have much information, but it was good enough, right? But then with the larger models, I was able to get a bigger computer with 64 gigabytes of RAM and whatnot, and I was able to build run larger models and ask the question, and then it would ask me for nuances. How do you want the chicken to be cooked, right? Which is a more complex reasoning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
So I think that the balance is to find how much specific you can build a model and how you can provide the specific data so you can provide much more specific answers, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Yes.
Very interesting. So you've said that your goal is to make tech simple, scalable, and profitable. What does
Absolutely.
that each of those means to you?
Yes. So I'll give a little context here from where we kind of left off of that, model being accurate, model being actually consistent, and model being scalable. So when you again going back to localization of, we have a model that in your system for your business only. And what happens is like the exact words that you mentioned, how can we, make it consistent and scalable and profitable? Now, accuracy comes from consistency when the model is getting trained constantly. And, amount of tasks that you ask the model to do, it'll like learn. So next time somebody asks that, it already done this job, it's going to get better and better. That consistency is going to improve. And of course, that's helping a business to scale because now the accuracy of the information that provides will give them to make the correct and the feasible and a viable and also desirable kind of decisions for your business and for your customers, right? And then that's what make them profitable because your scalability because you're profiting already, but your scalability is actually making more profitable because now that consistency is the one that runs through the other two verticals.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, we used to think of these general models, and then how can we restrict it so give us a more predictable answer or more,
Yeah.
accurate answer.
Yeah.
But with working on building your own model, then you can optimize it and you can reduce the cost, you can improve the speed to response, the accuracy of the response, and the impact that can have on the business can be much bigger, and with less resources make it more efficient, right?
Correct. Yes, that's right, Federico.
Right. Amazing. And so what are your common workflows that you see waste time and should be automated first?
You know what? That's a very good question. So everyone who asked that question, let me rephrase this. That question is being answered with a cookie cutter answer mechanism. Look, like everybody answers the same way, like because a cookie cutter question, if that makes sense. Now, that's a very broad question, to be honest. The reason I'm saying that every single business have unique problems as well. So what we do is when we walk into any business, right? What we initially ask is, we are not going to touch anything without having a discovery session. Our priority and the initial goal, we'll have the initial consulting. We don't charge for initial consulting, but then we start with discovery session. What we do in discovery session is we are actually mapping the entire workflow of their business. So it's like a horizontal journey. It'll give us a journey map. What's your workflow looks like? Tell me from Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. What do you do from Monday to Friday? What does that look like? What's your workflow looks like? So we're going to map it out first. It's a horizontal journey again. After we do that, we actually understand each of the touch points of that workflow. We vertically understand what are the steps you take every touch point, every action you take. There are multiple actions on that vertical. When we do that, we get a very clear picture of your business model. What are you really doing in your business? Now, when we really understand that visually, then we're going to ask them, okay, how do you do that with that and that and that? And we just copy and paste. Oh, we just have to scan and upload and do this, do that. Then you're like, what is your biggest pain point in that action? Or what are your biggest pain points across? So now we are actually asking them, what are your pain points? What is really painful for you to do? Right? Then that helps us to understand one of the biggest problems they have. Now, by doing the discovery session, we are prioritizing what are the low hanging fruits that we can immediately solve, and what are these bigger long term solutions, long term problem solving, approaches that we need to take. Now, when we take that information, we go back and then we create a business model canvas, we create a customer journey map or a business journey map to understand the workflow. And then we also, during that discovery session, we also talk about how we understand your problems and your methods and your process and your model. Let's say that we really eliminate these pain points and problems for you in your workflow. what is your ideal state look like? What's your future state look like? This is your current state. This is your future state. They're like, oh, we want to do this. We want to become that. We want to do this. We wanted to have another product line. All comes out. Okay, now we know where you want to be or where you need to be. Then what we do is your current state, eliminating pain points, creating solutions for these pain points, and then targeting where they need to be in the next 5 years by strategizing, laying down the roadmap, and customizing the solution to reach that goal. So we actually prepare that documentation like I would say it's a proposal. Partially, it's the discovery report. And of course, whether they wanted to go with us after that to really create that automation platform or software or a solution, or whether they want to go with someone else, doesn't matter. But we always do that, right? We always do that. That's how we approach. Now, that is helping us to decide, do we really need AI? Now, I always say, yes, you need AI right now, because if you don't, what's going to happen is your competitor who is using AI is cutting down the processing time from 70% to 30%. That's a 40% advantage that company has over you. So of course, AI will help them. And of course, AI has to come. But when we start, that's our first and foremost approach to do. Hope that makes sense and help you. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I mean, you said something that resonates a lot with me when you are asking, do we need AI? Because now, with all the hype that AI has, people go by default to AI first, whatever. And sometimes, I think it's important to have that introspection to ask ourselves, is this the right solution for the problem? Right? Which at the end of the day could be most of the time, yes. But asking ourselves that question allow us to reason, is this really necessary?
Exactly. I mean, it's very true. Now, do we really need AI or not is a good question. I mean, that I have multiple examples I can bring in that I deal with in my personal life. I deal with a lot of things. Uh, Recently, I spoke to somebody that who's in a car dealership, who takes care of my car, and then apparently they are trying. He was saying that don't call the actual dealership number. It goes to AI automation thing. This is my personal number, and call me for anything because it might not come to directly to me. That problem is not a massive problem. It's a very tiny problem, but it is a huge impact on me as a customer and the customer service. Now, if I'm gonna call the dealership or the car service place, then I'm gonna on hold, and this AI kind of agent is talking to me. When I know it's an AI agent, I'm like, I just want to talk to John. Like, can you put me to John? I don't want. I'm already done my things. So there are still gaps in AI adaptation. So because we are in early stages of these adaptations, we really need to find out where the humans thrive with human interactions and what the customer service is all about, where AI actually can improve the customer experience through the human interaction, not that AI to have direct thing, like a direct interaction with the humans, where humans probably like, why am I talking to a machine? I mean, remember in 2010, oh, I want a chatbot, I want a chatbot, I want a chatbot, I want a chatbot. Everybody end up hating chatbots, right? So because they know that it's to reduce the amount of human, like I would say, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're running a business and then you're service driven and people call you to ask questions all the time. Sometimes they are very silly questions, which you can actually check it on your website. So people are being lazy, pretty much. Now, yes, to minimize that incoming calls, having an agent is really screening it out. Totally understand. Now, but if it's something more complex and if it more needs that human solution, human interaction, human to human, we need to really address it as a human. It requires human to human interaction. So there is still a gap there. Getting back to it, do we need AI? Yes, we do. But where do we need AI in your business flow? We should not implement AI oh, you know what? AI is doing everything. I don't do anything else. Yeah, probably. In a nutshell, there are certain businesses definitely can leverage AI end to end. Absolutely. No problem at all. But it doesn't mean that every business needs AI from end to end. That's where I'm saying that discovery session helps us to advise our clients, say, please don't do that. But if that's what you want to go ahead with, go ahead with. But you're going to have more friction with your clients coming into you saying that you you know you have to deal with this separately, because our demography that when we're dealing with our customers, it can be an 18-year-old, it can be a 78-year-old. You don't know that, right? And but they're both paying dollars. They're both paying you, right? So does that mean that you don't care about the 78-year-old when they're paying the same thing? No. So you have to figure it out. What's the best model? Where does it really needs to scale? But where does it doesn't need as much, then you need to make those right decisions for your business so that customers, because at the end of the day, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. So and that's the essence of it. That's why I said human-centered design is a key for even AI take over a lot of things. We still need to think about how can we put our humans center of our solutions. So then we know that ethically we are actually moving forward.
Right, right. And the companies has been using automation even before AI. If you remember the phone voices,
Yeah,
20 years ago, right? Just to, they would use automation to kind of push away, customer support, users, right? To scare them away or to, make it more difficult for you to talk to a human, right?
exactly.
Which you can use technology, in particularly AI, for good or evil, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. So I think that it's important what you're saying, human centered, actually solving, actually adding value to the users, adding value to the business through the users. Through if you give a good experience to the customers of a business, then they're going to uh, want to use that are going to provide more business to that business, right? And that turns into profit, right? So I think that there is an important value for that. And as you said, during your discoveries, you can decide, you can provide recommendations on where companies can use AI or any automation to improve the experience of users and increase profit.
absolutely. I mean, I don't want to contradict myself here when I mentioned that there is like AI will become far superior to where AI is right now to have a conversation like this very soon. It will happen. However, I don't want to predict, or I want to I don't want to talk about like we are in the age of Armageddon with AI. That's not what I want to say. But AI will definitely become far superior than where it is right now to have a very sensible and emotional. I don't know how far that will go with emotions and feelings, but very sensible conversation. It'll come to that point because at the moment AI is still learning on those things come to it. But even if it comes to that, um, I'm a firm believer we should not eliminate the human factor out of the equation at all. Does that mean that we're not thinking about humans anymore? You know what I mean? So the human factor has to be there.
Right, right. It is one of the things that I appreciate of having these conversations, because we can learn in a much more intimate environment, and we can talk about the nuances of the problems, that with how we're flowed with content and notifications and whatnot. So our attention, you know, becomes reduced. So being able to have these long form conversations where we can discuss these topics in much more detail becomes, I think it's going to be more and more important with how AI is impacting the world.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Amazing. So what is one mistake you made early in your career that taught you a big lesson?
Career businessman or entrepreneur or as a tech individual, like, a designer or an engineer.
That's interesting because you have so many profiles, right?
Okay, let me break it down for you
No.
then. So, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, the biggest mistake, or I would say, yeah, biggest mistake I learned, or doesn't mean the biggest challenge and a mistake I made and I learned was understanding finances, understanding how to run a business with cash flow, finances, accounting. I hate accounting. I hate anything to do with the finance numbers and stuff. Like, I don't want. Like, I I used to kind of always push that away. But then and within the first 2 years of my company, that I've learned a huge lesson. We have clients, money comes in, money goes out. Where's the money? Like it's so I was having cash flow problems. I'm having all these problems that, but the company's running. I'm like, what's this? Something's wrong. And like, so I went back. I rather went back. I did a short course learning entrepreneurship and finance. So any entrepreneur out there, I would say any entrepreneur out there, I'd say first and foremost, before you start your company or while you're starting your company, learn about finances, learn about your cash flow, learn about how to manage money, learn about your regulations, then legalities per state, per country, per uh, let's say region, like European Union, for example, then Americas, then East Asia, wherever you are. Learn about your state, your country, and your region, and what are the regulations and stuff. What are the data privacy laws are there? So all this comes to everything matters to you. So learn about them. Luckily, because I was doing consulting in multiple places, that I learned all of that before I started the company, and I knew that I need to learn more about it. But the biggest mistake or biggest challenge that I had was about understanding financials on a company. That's very, very, very important for a businessman. That's from as a businessman, but from a career perspective, I think my biggest say rather mistake, again a challenge early in my career. I didn't realize my potential. I was playing very small. And I thought that I was only meant to do certain things. And then you had your managers and superiors you report to, and they always tend to box you into something that because they are intimidated by your capabilities. Not just me, I'm talking about every single person in the world that your capabilities are much bigger than what you think you can do. Everyone's capable of anything if they put their mind into it. When you know you're capable, but if you're trying to box you in by yourself as well, by others, don't let that happen to you. Always think you're meant to do bigger things. And I think early in the stage, I wasn't thinking like that. I only realized it later in the stage of my career before I start my company. And I'm like, I don't have no regrets, but I'm coaching. I do a lot of coaching on a platform globally. So a lot of junior tech kind of individuals like engineers, designers. They book me to pretty much coach them. And what I tell them is that I'm not here to teach you about design. I'm not here to teach you about programming or business analysis or whatever. I'm here to change your mindset. I'm a coach. I'm not a teacher who's teaching you a subject. So I think that anybody who's either you're in an early stage of your career, doesn't matter which industry in it, especially if you're in tech, and if you're an entrepreneur, even a business owner, like, and in your growth stage, like, always remember these things. Learn about finances, accounting, regulatories, legalities, all of that early stage of your startup or on your business. And as an early career, if you're in an early career stage, think bigger, work hard for that think bigger. Even though your mind probably says that, oh, you are meant for do bigger things because our parents always say that you're meant to do bigger things, which is true. But don't limit yourself, which I did. I even though I have no regrets, but I wish I've learned or I did certain things early in the stage of my career than later. I'll give you one example. When I start consulting, my client actually woke me up saying that when I speak English, sometimes I speak so fast that they can't understand certain words and certain things I say. So I used to speak much more faster than the way I'm speaking right now. And the certain words that I pronounce that way that they don't understand. How am I going to change this? Like, it's like this is how I speak. So I actually then booked a speech. I went speech therapy and public speaking coaching, and I paid a lot of money to pronounce certain words that people will understand me better. And the tone of voice when you say certain sentences, what that, so if it's dangerous sentence, then how you kind of express it. If it's a happy, if it's a sad one, you know what I mean? So I've learned a little bit
Right.
about, and those things only happen little later in my career up to now. So I could have learned all that early on. that helps me to even progress my career or progress my success early on. So things like that, these are minor, some of them are major, but I just gave an example of it. Yeah, it changed the way people see you and listen to you. So it has a huge impact.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, English is my second language. Hated learning English. At one point I hated it. But then I started working with American companies. I was hired by Microsoft when I was 16 years old. So, in those early years, I eventually had to learn English, right? It was one of the things that make a difference, right? And then after that, when I thought I was like, okay, I know English and blah, 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 I realized what you said, the nuances of how you speak and how you pronounce certain words. Be able to articulate becomes important, right? And I'm
Absolutely.
kind of overemphasizing here with how I express it, but it is important because people tend to judge the book by the cover,
Mm,
right? And then you can have a great idea, but if they cannot understand what you're saying, then they're going to dismiss you, right? So being able to articulate those ideas become important. And as you said, being able to have the courage to get out of your comfort zone, have the security that you know what you're talking about and be prepared, right? Because all of those things become important because we are the result of every decision that we made through our lives, right? And the mistakes that we made, right? So being able to have that security and project it so your ideas can be listened and you can articulate them correctly so you can influence others that your idea is a good idea, then that will allow you to grow much, much faster in your career, right? So I completely agree. And then I have been through my years appreciating more and more the different roles in companies, different skills. I used to hate financials as well, but out of necessity, I had to learn it. And now I appreciate it more. My wife and co-founder, she's running the finance of the company and she does a great job. But I also had to learn myself a lot of the concepts to make sure that we are on track, right? And being able to understand to build a profitable business has a significant impact on not only to be able to serve the clients, but also to be able to serve the people that you hire, right? Because they decided to join you and your company and they put their life into your hands, right? So then the finance becomes much more significant because you are affecting their lives, right? And, not last or least, right? It's yourself as well, right? Because if you are stressed out because of the finance, then you're going to not be able to serve your clients properly.
absolutely. I totally agree.
Amazing. Dan, I think that was amazing. We had a great conversation. We're running out of time. I learned a lot. Any final remarks before we wrap it up?
I totally appreciate giving the time, Federico, for this session. I think we had a really great insights out of these conversations, and I think every time you speak about what you do and also how it's impacting the world and impacting your surroundings, it's really really important and it is rewarding. So first of all, I wanted to kind of thank you and appreciate you just setting this up. But from a final thoughts perspective, AI, if you're really focusing on AI is to stay. It's not going to go anywhere and it's only going to grow. It's only going to dominate in certain parts of our industry as well as the rest of like any other industry as per matter. So society is going to get impacted by that. And people are worried about am I going to lose my job? Am I going to, where will I be? And whether my job is going to get replaced by AI. Most of the jobs will be getting replaced by AI. Doesn't mean that it's going to get replaced completely. It means that it's helping to speed up the process of what we do. And we need to look at it that way right now. So as an employee or as somebody who is actually trying to grow yourself within that space, I would say learn how to use your tools within AI. Just like in early 2000 or late 90s, everybody had to learn Microsoft. Something it's a very similar impact right now. Learn tools that actually does what your job does, and then you become better at it, then your value goes up. That's my advice to people who are within the space of employment. For businesses out there who are actually implementing AI into your businesses, my biggest advice, I would say the only advice, is do not adopt any AI simply because it's AI. Make sure that you do your due diligence on finding out where the biggest problems are in your business and try to adopt AI to do those things. And also, if there are processes and also have workflows that takes a long, long time to do that job, that's where you need AI to do your work so that you can actually focus on growing your business, like sales marketing, and then, go and speak to more clients while AI is doing some of these grunt work with your employees as well. So always remember, adopting AI the correct way is the best thing to do. Don't just adopt simply because I can use an agent, right? And you're going to hate it, and your customers going to hate it, and you're going to leave it alone. So that is my biggest advice to it, because there's plenty out there to do it. But make the right decision before you getting into AI. Humanize it, right? Humanize it. Put yourself in the middle of the solution. Put your customers in the middle of the solution. And then if you have employees, put them also in the middle of the solution, and then bring AI into the middle of that. That's my advice to it. Adaptation.
Amazing, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Federico, and I appreciate your time and invitation. Thank you.